Welcome to Current Conversations, where we dive into inspiring stories and insights from those who are creating meaningful change in conservation and beyond. I'm Katie Horney, and this is Mark Felwalk. We're both from Rivers Our Life. On this episode, we are talking to Meaghan Gass, an educator with Michigan Sea Grant, where she works to teach about the importance of Michigan's freshwater resources. Meaghan, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
To start off, would you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work Michigan Sea Grant does?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So Michigan Sea Grant, we're part of a national college program. So any state that has a Great Lake or ocean connection has a Sea Grant program. And with support from NOAA, we work to enhance the sustainable use of the Great Lakes here locally in Michigan through education, outreach, and research. So my job locally in Saginaw Bay, I serve with Michigan State University Extension as a Sea Grant educator, and I support people in the Saginaw Bay region of Lake Huron. This isn't where I'm originally from. I'm actually from Southern Illinois, and I studied in undergrad and graduate school political science and French. So I have a little bit of a wayward path to getting to here in the Great Lakes. But what brought me here was really an interest in fresh water and this wonderful resource we have. So I'm very interested in helping to govern this natural resource, and it's a shared resource. So there's lots of people that are a part of it, but I'm also interested in living and playing and working in Saginaw Bay, which has now become my home. I've been here since 2018 and been able to do a lot of really fun stuff in the region, including playing roller derby with the Chemical City Derby Girls.
Which is very cool. I was born in Saginaw, and so I'm a Michigander through and through, and you do learn to appreciate the freshwater resources we have here.
Yes, it is amazing. Michigan is truly a Great Lakes state. If you look at all the watersheds, all of the land that drains into a particular body of water, pretty much almost all of the entire state of Michigan is a part of the Great Lakes Basin. There are tiny pieces in the southeast and in the UP that are connected to the Mississippi River Basin. But otherwise, we have so much we can do to protect this really a freshwater treasure in our backyards.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm from southern Indiana originally, too. So I came up here to go to school. And one of the first things I remember is going out to Lake Michigan for the first time. I think I remember sitting with my parents and being like, you mean I can come out here like every day if I want to? Like this is right in our backyard up here. So definitely one of the things that drew me up here as well. And I think a lot of people probably don't understand the vastness of the Great Lakes. I'll tell a few facts, and I think we can get into a couple of the initiatives that you all are working on. But it's the largest freshwater system in the world, like you said. The Great Lakes hold 20% of the world's freshwater. 90% of the U.S. is freshwater. Michigan alone has 3,200 miles of shoreline. There's 11,000 different inland lakes, and there's 36,000 miles of rivers. So that's just in Michigan. Obviously, a lot of fresh water to protect and then conserve. So can you dive into a few of the initiatives that you all are working on that front?
Yeah, well, with that big of a freshwater treasure we're connected to, the Great Lakes, they provide us with 20% of the world's surface freshwater. There's a lot we can do to protect this resource, but with Michigan Sea Grant, we acknowledge we're a small team. So there's only so much we can do as individuals within our team. So we really use the motto of doing more through partnership. There are so many people that are working to protect the Great Lakes. So by working together, we can really do more. And one of the initiatives that I provide leadership to is the Center for Great Lakes Literacy, CGLL, also known as Seagull, like the gull, the bird. But we work and collaborate across the basin to really foster an understanding of Great Lakes literacy. So how you can have an influence on the Great Lakes and how the Great Lakes can have an influence on you. So we use a train the trainer model where we work with educators and partners, and then they can leverage and use what they've learned during professional learning opportunities with their learners. So we're really trying to think of ways that we can build systems to support all the different people that want to connect to the Great Lakes. And in Michigan, even if you're all the way on the inland of the state, what you're doing on the ground can have an impact on this freshwater treasure. So making that connection is really important, regardless of whether or not you enter a career in natural resources. We can all impact this resource.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because you touched on a couple things that we both hold true. The power of partnerships. Rivers Are Life is a super small team too. And in order to accomplish the projects we're tackling, we have to work with partners. And one of them is somebody that we both know that really leans into that idea of train the trainer and how do we teach, future generations about the importance of sustainability. So I'm kind of jumping ahead in my questions for you, but we were connected through the Sustainability Teachers Fellowship, and that works to help teachers bring sustainability concepts into the classrooms. So the K through 12 teachers can show the students how the things they're currently learning in class can be leveraged into careers in the nature space. Do you want to kind of dive in and share some cool things you've seen from that?
Yeah, so I was able to be a part of the Dow Sustainability Teacher Fellowship since its beginning, and it's been really great getting to see what the teachers and their learners and connected partners have been able to develop through the course of the fellowship. So some teachers, like there's a group from White Pine Middle School. They've been doing invasive species monitoring and removal at a local park since the project started. So they've been able to remove hundreds of pounds of invasive garlic mustard, make a difference in their community, but also learn about ways that by being observers in our places, we can be more able to early detect and more rapidly respond to invasive species that might be entering areas. And then also learning about how we can clean gear when moving from one place to another to stop the spread. So that's one example, but others include where students, they did research on their own school community and their cafeteria, looking at what are the costs of different single-use products like single-use silverware. And they made campaigns to their school board sharing this information and trying to highlight ways that they could support better sustainability by looking at like a cost-benefit analysis. So I think that's been one of the really cool things about the project is figuring out what is an issue, where are ways we can make changes in our own local community, and that community varies from school to school. There are also examples of older school grades, like at high school level, working depending on their school building with like elementary or middle school students to help share what they've learned through their Dow Sustainability Fellowship project with other grades. So it has fostered that full school community learning as well.
I've got 3 small children, so yeah, being able to learn about different ways that they can get involved with this type of stuff is just awesome. Are there certain summer programs or initiatives that you all have going on?
Yeah, so it depends on where you're located around the state of Michigan. So there's lots of opportunities. Michigan Sea Grant, we partner a lot with 4-H. So it's a youth development organization that I think is most known for their ties with agriculture, but there's a lot of initiatives that we partner with from our 4-H and Great Lakes Natural Resources Camp, which is open statewide to youth 13 to 15. It's an amazing camp. The first time I went, I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to be a camper. Every day, the kids are going out. It's a pre-college program through MSU. So they're going out, working with Great Lakes biologists, researchers, getting to dive into fens. We explored a shipwreck, the Albany, out in Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary.
That's awesome.
So many cool different projects and things you can learn. And also learn what you like and don't like. I think that's one of the most important things when trying to explore careers. It's kind of figuring out, well, I really like doing this, but this, I don't know if I could do this every day. And I think that's something, those kind of camps and experiences are important. In Saginaw Bay, I also facilitate a 4-H fishing camp with local 4-H program coordinators, and it's been a great experience. We learn about fishing, but also how to understand the rules and regulations when you can keep a fish or release it. And then also going back to invasive species, we talk a lot about clean, drain, and dry your gear to stop the spread of invasive species. And we've been able to remove some invasive plants, frog bit, from Saginaw Bay and the All Gray River. And the kids, they love putting on the waders and getting outside and just hanging out in the water and feeling that pressure. So I would encourage first just looking at your local counties, finding out what those opportunities are. Because like Katie said earlier, there's so many partners in this space and we're all working together and there's so many ways to connect to this resource.
The partnership thing is such a key. Something we're both working on right now is, the bringing the sturgeon back into our waterways. And so we've partnered with Chippewa Nature Center to support their sturgeon in the classroom program. But I know it's something that you all are working on too. And I don't know, over the course of the last couple of weeks, I keep seeing pictures on Facebook of like people out there fishing and they catch and release. And so it's great to see the sturgeon program, like it's working. The idea is working. Tracking the sturgeon is working. Tell me more about that program.
Yeah, so the Saginaw Bay Sturgeon Restoration effort is really a culmination of a lot of restoration that has occurred in the Saginaw River system. So the Saginaw River system used to be the home to Lake Sturgeon. There are archaeological surveys that have taken place in the Chippewa River, a tributary of the Saginaw River, that highlight that sturgeon during those excavations were one of the most common fish found. So this used to be a very common fish in the Saginaw River system, but due to water quality issues, human activities from damming the rivers, overfishing sturgeon, these sturgeon are in decline and they're a threatened species in Michigan. Partners are working to, in certain streams where they have the possibility of restoring sturgeon, to bring them back. And the Saginaw River system was one of those areas. So every year in August and September, we release and host public community celebrations where anyone can come out and join us at the different tributaries of the Saginaw River system. So this includes the Cass River, and we release those in Frankenmuth. The Flint River, we release in Flint. The Shiawassee River, we release in Chesaning. And then lastly, the Tittabawassee River, we released in Midland, and that's in partnership with the Chippewa Nature Center. Right. So those public release events open to the public. So far, we've released over 6,000 lake sturgeon. When they're released, they're like 4 to 6 inches in length. But these fish, like Katie mentioned, they can grow to be really big. It takes them about 15 to 25 years to become adults.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And at adults, they can be over 6 feet in length. That's their average length, and weigh more than 200 pounds. So
incredible.
These are
That's a big fish.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like to, with the kids, when they are at the release events, I love to share that you're going to be an adult before this fish is. And this fish can live to be over 100 years old. So it's really a long-lived fish. It is. It's amazing. And culturally, they're also really important to Michigan and all of the tribal nations that are around the state and this region. So sturgeon, also known as Neme, are a tribal clan species. And so from that perspective, it's also really important to return these sturgeon home. So that is one of my favorite projects. I love these release celebrations. And there's been some additional research that's been done around like how some of these sturgeon are moving after they get released, using telemetry data and working with partners like GLaDOS and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Michigan DNR. But this effort, it's really a long restoration project. We won't know until the late 2030s, early 2040s if it's fully successful. But it's been great getting to see those that have incidentally caught the fish while fishing. And if you ever catch a sturgeon in the Saginaw River system, it's important to release that fish as soon as you can. It is not legal to catch or keep any sturgeon in the Saginaw River system.
It's really interesting because that the sturgeon are such a unique looking fish that when you do see them, I think it like raises awareness to, especially to children. Like, this is a really old fish, and it doesn't look like the fish they're used to seeing.
Not at all. And they have a bony cartilage that's similar to like a shark called a scute, Scute. And when you release them, they can be sometimes sharp. And over time, as these sturgeon get older, these scutes can get more dull as they rub their bodies on the rocks. So it's a neat looking fish in general. And then they also have these like vacuum-like mouths that they use to suck on the ground. So even though these fish can get really big, they're gentle giants and they're just so amazing. And if you're interested in sturgeon, there are opportunities, for instance, up in Sheboygan County, where you can actually guard the sturgeon along the Black River. It's a great camping experience,
I've
and you
heard
get
of
to
that.
actually, yeah, it's so much
Yeah,
fun. I've done it one year, and I've been to the research facility a number of different times.
sure.
And if anyone is unable to make it to the facility, we also have a 360 tour we've made of the facility to help connect people to it. So if you want to go and see it, I can share that
Yeah.
link.
That's awesome. Yeah, and through these conversations, we've learned that you all are working on the development of a new website to bring some of these issues and initiatives to the forefront. Can you explain a little bit of what's going into that?
Yeah, so the initiative I mentioned earlier, the Center for Great Lakes Literacy, or SEAGLE, we work with Sea Grant partners and other partners around the Great Lakes to really connect educators, formal and non-formal, with resources that they can use with their learners. So we've been developing a peer review process for both our lessons and any multimedia that would go on the site in order to make sure that it's addressing the education needs and best practices of what we want to provide to different communities. So that website will be set to launch in March this year, and it'll be a database-filled website that has lots of different tags that you'll be able to find different resources. It'll be an ever-growing website. We've really kind of adopted the adage of like, a website is never done. Yeah. So we know that we will be continually working on this website into what seems like forever, but it'll be, I think, one of those things that there's so many ways that people can get the hook on what makes them interested in the Great Lakes. And it's trying to find what could be those different hooks and making it as easy as possible for a variety of different educators to connect their learners with this topic.
So one more question for you as we kind of dive into the resource of the website. But my daughters are in elementary school, so what would be the best way to introduce their school to a program like this? Like, I don't think they're doing anything currently. Is there a resource for that?
Yeah, so we try to partner in Michigan. We try to work with like a partner organization, Great Lakes Stewardship Initiative. So
Okay.
I know they have regional hubs around the state that they work to foster getting educators into trainings to help support them using the Great Lakes as a learning tool. So that would be one partner I would look to. But I also, with this website, as things come online, we'll have a lot of different resources that educators could potentially check out. One of my favorite is our 10-foot by 7-foot Great Lakes Basin map. It is so much fun for kids to actually get and explore and find out where they live. And it's a watershed map. So it highlights all the different watersheds that are connected to the Great Lakes and really can tie in how this place here on the map can be connected to this wonderful freshwater resource.
Mark, you have work to do.
I know, it sounds like it. You gotta bring it over to the west side of the state here.
You got to just get Meaghan out there for a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with our Sea Grant team, one of my colleagues, Dan O'Keefe, he serves in your area. He has a lot more fisheries expertise. But that is one of the things with our Sea Grant extension team. We're positioned where we serve all the coastal counties around the state of Michigan.
Okay.
So there won't be necessarily a Meaghan on your side of the state, but you can connect with your local Sea Grant partners wherever you are. And this goes beyond just Michigan. So if you're in a state that's connected to a Great Lakes or ocean, look for your Sea Grant program to potentially help you.
Well, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us today. As this conversation comes to a close, we want to just take a moment and give you a chance to share with listeners, more ways they can get involved, anything maybe that you haven't had a chance to say yet, a call to action. This is kind of your chance to, get your last thing out.
This isn't about Sea Grant, but a quote I love, and it really speaks to all of the work that we do in environmental education that ties to the Great Lakes and our ocean resources. It's by Baba Diome, a Senegalese forester. He shared, "In the end, we will only conserve what we love. We will only love what we understand, and we will understand only what we are taught." So that for me speaks to why we do the work that we do. And it's so important to make meaningful connections to these wonderful resources, because at the end of the day, for fresh water, it sustains life on land. We all need fresh water to live. So it's really important that we all do what we can do to help protect and conserve this resource so future generations can continue to enjoy it.
100%. We completely agree with you.
Yeah, that's a great quote. Yeah.
It's one of my favorites. I always, whatever I'm trying to think of, if I'm ever in the dark with my work and trying to come back to like, why am I doing this? Or what are we really doing? I circle back to that quote, and I go back to the Great Lakes too. They're a big part of my why. 20% of the world's surface fresh water. And it's so important to protect that fresh water. So those are my big whys when I think about Sea Grant. And I think for anybody that's doing this work, it's important to think about those whys and how we connect back to them.
Yep. At Rivers of Life, we're always, working to inspire action to protect, preserve, and explore, because the more you explore and you get out there and you see them, the more you want to protect and conserve all the great places. So we 100% agree with that idea.
Well, Meaghan, thanks so much for taking the time and enlightening us on what the good work that you all are doing.
Yeah, happy to share. And I appreciate all that you do to share about all the great fresh water that's around the world.
To all the listeners out there that have enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate or review on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us continue to reach this community. If there's any topics or points of interest that you want us to cover, feel free to reach out to us and we'll put those into consideration. Thanks so much for the support.